Istanbul, the jewel of the Bosphorus. At this crossroads between Europe and Asia lives gourmet restaurateur Attila Dogudan. Dogudan is converting these derelict palaces into 2 luxury hotels. They are located right on the shore of the Bosphorus, the most expensive property stretch in Istanbul. He is investing 40 million euros in this project and hopes the hotels will be amongst the most luxurious in the world. When it comes to business, Dogudan is a typical Turk. Turks believe in the idea that anything goes, and it is this positive attitude that makes people here try things out and see if they work. There is so much opportunity out here, and if we go by this principle, we're much more likely to succeed. To take on a project like this and see if it'll work is a dream, a risk well worth taking. To restore these 2 palaces to their former glory and update them for today's market is a perfect example of the Turkish principle in practice. Istanbul is louder and more chaotic than the average European city. It can be difficult for Western Europeans to digest. A few years ago, I invited a few company directors from Austria here as guests. They all said, "Wow, interesting. Everything seems so normal here." So I have no idea what people expect it to be like. Sometimes I have the impression that all the high-rise buildings, cars and roads really surprise people. According to a Turkish saying, the earth in Istanbul is made of gold. The dreams of rags to riches is alive here in the city. The city is defined by a balancing act between the miniskirt and minaret. With 15 million inhabitants, it is the economic centre of Turkey. About a third of the country's gross domestic product is generated here. In this evolving city full of contradictions, modernity and tradition, poverty and luxury live side by side. We visit Ayse. For 5 years, she's been running one of the trendiest cafes in the city, the Happily Ever After. It is a microcosm of modern Istanbul, located in the Bebek district, an upper middle-class area. It is also a stronghold of Kemalism, the ideology of the lay state in Turkey, according to which religion and politics should be strictly separate. Ayse lives with her 3 children in a house in front of her cafe. To take care of the children, she employs an American nanny.
Hi, Christy. Hi, how are you?
The prevailing image in Europe is one of Turkish women being forcibly veiled and married. But Ayse sees no difference between the lives of women in Turkey and those of any other European woman.
Türk'üm ama Türk asıllı bir.
I'm a Turkish woman, but I am also a citizen of the world.
Ailem de böyle yaşıyor. Ne demek bu?
My family and I live like this. We could just as easily live in another country and adapt.
Adapte olup yaşam kurabilir. Çünkü
maybe it's because we read and travel a lot. In any event, we feel very cosmopolitan. We don't feel as if we were living on the edge of the world.
Ya da çok kitap okuduğumuzdan. Ama kendimizi gayet dünyalı hissediyoruz.
Evet, çok özgürler.
Yes, women are much freer than before. In student life, at work, and in everyday life in general, they are much freer.
Maddi olarak harcamalar da özgür.
But women are also financially free. They can spend money as they want. Not in our time. Back in my student days, I could not go out in the street when I felt like it. It was different.
Evime döndüğüm zaman istediğim gibi çıkamazdım yani.
The question of whether to wear a headscarf or not is irrelevant for Ayse. It has nothing to do with religion. Here, they live with both Islamic and lay traditions.
Ben kendi şeylerime göre çocuklarımı ve ailemi
What I've learned, I try to pass on to my family. For example, I read the Quran in Arabic. I have learnt to recite prayers in Arabic, but I do not pray 5 times a day. I don't have the time.
Öyle vaktim yok.
The Istanbulites from this quarter compare their city to the likes of New York or London, But in terms of their financial situation, they belong to a small elite.
İstanbul'un büyük bir çoğu yaşıyor.
A large portion of the people in this area live their lives as modernly as we do. Of course, there are also people who do not live like this. In my neighbourhood, people can easily spend 10 euros on dinner. In other parts of the city, people don't earn that amount in a day. Of course there's a big difference, but I think that's just a reality of big cities.
İşte bu tam da bu çelişki. Ama bu da büyük şehirlerde olması gereken şey.
For Rafet, this neighbourhood is still a little strange. He is the pastry chef in Ayse's cafe. He has lived in Istanbul for 8 years. Privately, he confesses he would not normally come to this neighbourhood, and certainly not to this cafe. I have nothing at all in common with the people who come here. My life and their life are poles apart. Rafet is well aware that only part of Istanbul lives in such modernity. He migrated from Anatolia to Istanbul to find work, along with many others. There are no jobs in his village. Rafet graduated from high school and left. Having arrived in Istanbul, he did an apprenticeship as a confectioner and then got a formal qualification. He never dreamt that one day he would be working in this quarter. To be a confectioner here is a matter of great prestige. For me, working here is something very special, a luxury. It is the first time I've worked for such clients. I'm not used to it. My family aren't used to it either. Rafet takes us out to Gultep and into his world. This is the real Istanbul, he says. More than 70% of Istanbul's population come from Anatolia. In the hope of work, fame or freedom, they migrate to Istanbul. Rafet shows us the back streets of Gultep. Here we encounter a curious group of Roma children. Nothing could feel further removed from the modern flair of the Bosphorus. This was formerly a Gayçay Kondu quarter. Gayçay Kondus are the shanties built overnight by immigrants when they first arrived from the east. 2/3 of the city's inhabitants are formerly from the Gayçay Kondu quarter. Gultep is located right next to the bustling Levant business district, where the road is full of men in dark suits. They come into this part of the city, and there is great poverty. Then they go to other places, and they're faced with the greatest luxury. This is typical Istanbul. The different groups are living cheek by jowl, but the gulf between them is huge. Yes, Istanbul is a peculiar place. Most people here come from eastern Turkey, from Anatolia. They come here because there aren't any opportunities to find jobs there. In recent years, more and more people have come from abroad to work here as well. For example, there are a lot of people from Kazakhstan or Turkmenistan.
Mesela yurt dışından gelenler var. Son zamanlarda yurt dışı çok rehavet gördü. Kazakistan, Türkmenistan.
Workers toil for a minimum wage of about 270 euros per month in Gultep. Rent costs about 120 euros here. The unemployment rate is nearly 17%. On the other side of town, Istanbul is a city of the super rich. For the Austro-Turkish fashion designer Atil Kutoglu, Istanbul offers more customers than Austria ever could. According to the international media, the city has 50,000 millionaires. Look, this is for you. No, I can't wear anything that exposes my chest since I have problems with my thyroid. You might think that since we are in an Islamic country, women would want to cover up, and some of them do. But to be modern, they always want a low neckline and a slit in their skirts. At first, this used to annoy me.
Dekolleté unten und ein Beinschlitz auch noch dazu. Das hat mich am Anfang irritiert.
Atil Kutoglu's business has been open a year. His customer base in Istanbul is much more consumerist than in Vienna. In Istanbul, those who have money show it, with flashy cars, fine clothes and exclusive parties. German Turk Doğan İlhan likes it this way.
Wenn ich in Türkei lande, in Istanbul, habe ich das Gefühl, dass ich
When I'm in Turkey, I feel important. I can be visionary. I am free to move forward. I don't have as many obstacles. In Germany, I have a feeling that even with a lot of money, I can't have this lifestyle.
Auch mit viel Geld, so dieser Lifestyle fehlt mir auch, muss ich sagen.
The confectioner Rafet only knows this kind of lifestyle from TV. 3 months ago, he got married.
Evlenmek şart tabii ki. Bizim burada şart.
Marriage is of course obligatory. If you do not marry, you can never live independently of your parents. You can never live your own life. For us, real life begins when you get married.
Yalan bir hayat yaşarsın. Bizde öyle. Evliliği ancak hani
It's different for the rich. They don't get married until 30 or 40, and then just because they want a child. It's not like that for us.
Bir evlendi görüneyim amaçlı. Onlar da bizim gibi şey değil.
Rafet has lived with his family in Istanbul for the past 8 years. At some point, they want to return to their village. Compared with their relatives who have remained in the village, they are better off in the city. The entire family saved up for 8 years and bought an apartment. They also have a car. And now they want to buy a second apartment. Yet they are adamant that they will not adopt the city lifestyle. They all agree that if you are enticed by it, you'll go under. They live as they did in their traditional Anatolian village. Both Rafet and his brother are married to women from their village.
Vermezlerdi çünkü köy...
We have a better chance of finding a woman if we come from Istanbul. Otherwise, I would probably not have married. You might find that funny, but in our village, it's important that a man has a secure income. If you work in Istanbul, you have that. In Istanbul, you have to move fast because the city develops very quickly. You have to keep pace. Otherwise, you get left behind.
Sen de koymak zorundasın. Devamlı üst kademeye çıkmak zorundasın. İstanbul böyle bir yer.
The 2009 International Millionaires Fair is taking place in Istanbul. Atil Kutoglu guides me through the district Nisantazi.
Ja, das ist hier die
This is the Akçapekti Street, which used to be the coal market of Istanbul, and now one by one the super brands are moving in, and not just in fashion.
Eins nach dem anderen die Supermarken nicht nur in Mode.
Rich means modern, and modern means Western. The old established elites of the country can sense this, but this is changing. Under the government of the AKP, Istanbul is becoming modern but staying overtly Islamic.
Also Kopftuch wurde immer mit älteren Leuten.
Before, headscarves were increasingly associated with older people or with a certain type of conservative people. Now you can see modern women wearing Burberry trench coats in jeeps with a headscarf on, and you think, what's the big deal? It's just fashion.
Man sagt, was ist denn da los? Es ist eine neue Welle.
These are the homes of the new elite. Safak has gained a reputation with the Turkish public as the interior designer of the religious rich. That is, the Islamic elite. The apartments he designs have captured the imagination of the Turkish public and have met with mixed reactions. So what defines the taste of the religious conservatives?
Şöyle fark var. Bir kere çok fazla
The difference lies in the fact that they are much more pompous. This is an American bedroom with Ottoman elements.
Bu bir Amerikan yatak odası. Fakat şurada görmüş olduğunuz motiflerin hepsi bizim Osmanlı'dan gelen. Yani Amerikan
This blend of Ottoman and American is typical of their taste.
Ottoman art denmez ama tam Osmanlı motifi aslında bunun doğrusu. Bu ikisinin birleşimi bir yatak odası mesela bu. Kabe'deki cam ocağından.
This is a stone from the glass blowing of the Kaaba in the holy Islamic town of Mecca. It is very popular. We use it as feet for tables, for example. This group used to live much more closeted lives. I have a feeling they have now become more confident. I used to have few religious, conservative clients. Now I have many.
Eskiden bu kadar benim muhafazakar müşterim yoktu. Şimdi daha çok var.
The new assertiveness of the conservative social climbers is a thorn in the side of the old elites. Criticism also comes from those in their own community who think that a Muslim ought to live modesty. To learn more, I visit Yara in Ayub, a traditionally important town for Muslims. Every Monday, Yara invites the residents of the area to a religious lecture. He talks about Islam. He bought this house especially for these sermons, but he is a businessman, not an imam. Yara owns a food production company. He is also co-founder of Musiad, the industrial association for religious businessmen. In his office, he told me of the boom religious business people have experienced in the last few years.
1970'lerde.
It began in the 70s. Musiad became stronger under Prime Minister Özal. Now under Erdogan's AKP, we are reaping the benefits.
Meyvelerini verdi diyelim.
Yara prays 5 times a day, as Islam prescribes. Behind his bookcase, he has created a designated place for this. Believers in Turkey are no longer branded as backward. Yara has nothing against luxury. He believes he can express his new identity through status symbols. Businessmen here want to be modern, but not westernized.
Biz onlarla birlikte nasıl yaşayacağımızı önemseriz.
Our concern is that though we get along well with Europeans, we do not want to be like them. We do not want to develop Western values. This does not mean we cannot do business together, but we have nothing in common. With the prosperity that the religious businessmen have enjoyed in recent years, have come changes in their way of life. They are becoming increasingly consumerist. Yara buys almost exclusively brand clothing, and for entertainment he has games consoles. But ultimately, he keeps away from alcohol and gambling and distributes arms, as Islam prescribes. His wife doesn't wear a headscarf. In Turkey, headscarves are strictly banned at state universities. She stopped wearing one as a student and hasn't done so since. But Amina has many friends who wear a headscarf. These women are increasingly visible in public life.
Bir arkadaşım bir alışveriş merkezinde
In a shopping centre, a woman came up to us, pulled off my friend's headscarf and started to shout at her. What are you doing here? Women like you weren't around before. Now you are everywhere. You're spreading like a plague. The country is divided into 2 camps, the Kemalists and religious Anatolians. Previously, the Kemalists without headscarves were above. The religious Anatolians wearing headscarves were below. The religious conservative AKP, which now rules the country, has changed all that. The Kemalists are losing power and suspect the AKP of trying to establish an Islamic theocratic state. They look to the state's founder, Ataturk. He introduced the separation of church and state.
Defolun buradan, biz sizi burada istemiyoruz. Eskiden yoktunuz böyle nezih yerlerde. Siz şimdi her yerde mantar gibi varsınız.
If you grow up being taught the history of this country, you know Ataturk. There aren't many heroes like Ataturk in the world. Basically, Ataturk is Turkey.
Wie wahrscheinlich wenige sonst in anderen Ländern, weil im Grunde ist fehlerfrei sozusagen in der Türkei.
Kemalism is the ideology of the state in Turkey. It includes not only secularism, but also nationalism. Ataturk famously said, "Happy is the man who can say he is a Turk." Children growing up today still have this drummed into them at school.
Also das Vaterland verteidigen jeden Preis ist etwas, was man
To defend the fatherland at all costs is something that you both learn and live as a child here. If you come from here, it's quite normal. You don't tend to think about it. One would, no matter what, be in the war.
unter Anführungszeichen in den Krieg ziehen.
But religion and politics aside, what Attila Dogudan is really excited about in Istanbul are the economic possibilities. He set up Turkish Co. 3 years ago. He also owns 3 replica aircraft for the training of flight personnel. Is it different doing business here in Turkey rather than in Europe? The emotion is different. It is an incredibly emotional country, in everything that they do, in a positive and a negative way. If there was no food served on a flight, for example, there would be a national uprising. Attila Dogudan invested in Istanbul when others advised him not to. Since then, Turkish Co. has employed 2,000 people. He is responsible for the catering aboard 60 national and international airlines. Dogudan is also aware of the fact that there are big social differences in Istanbul. He believes, however, the faster a broad middle class develops, the faster it will pull in others. The Turks now are where the Central Europeans were a few decades ago. If a new business starts up here, people are highly motivated to get together and join in to get it moving. Europe is now in a defensive position, trying to preserve its wealth. In Turkey, we're not there yet.
Wir sind schon in Mitteleuropa in einer Verteidigungsposition, sozusagen den Wohlstand verteidigen, der hier natürlich noch nicht erreicht ist.
Perhaps it is this spirit of optimism that makes the city so attractive to the descendants of guest workers from Europe. More and more well-trained German Turks are coming back to Istanbul. The career I've built up here in 3 years, I couldn't have done in 10 years in Germany. I've been promoted from site manager to project manager. The people here are definitely just as career-oriented here as in Germany or Austria, in my opinion. But here we always have the advantage, namely of speaking both the national language and other European languages fluently.
Und B, noch weitere Fremdsprachen auf sehr hohem Niveau sprechen kann.
Although Istanbul is a big city, if you're single, it's hard to find an apartment here. A friend of mine came to study here as an exchange student, and because I speak slightly better Turkish than him, I looked for an apartment for us to share. We were 2 friends, students, wanting to live together for 1 year. But landlord said, no, you'll have parties, you'll bring people back, you have to live separately as singles.
Sie macht die Sexorgien, Entschuldigung, mit Verlaub, aber nee, an 2 Singles nicht.
A friend of mine had the same problem. I introduced myself as his fiancé, and he got the apartment, because I said we were getting married this summer.
Weil ich gesagt habe, wir heiraten diesen Sommer.
The Beyoğlu party district, with its little side streets, was always the most dangerous area of Istanbul. But the vibrant club scene has changed the neighbourhood, and now it also attracts tourists. Before, I would not have come here as a woman alone, let alone wearing high-heeled shoes. But all that has changed. We are now really in the deepest side streets of Beyoğlu. Here, the city council has done a lot of work in the past few years. Today, women can come here alone without feeling threatened.
3 kız çok rahatlıkla yürüyüp bir yerden bir yere ulaşabilir.
For 3 months now, coffee house owner Ayse has been running a club in Beyoğlu. It has fast become the in club. However, this could change soon as new bars open almost weekly here. Ayse's club follows the example of clubs in London, Paris, or New York.
Hep öyle bir şey düşünüyoruz ki benim aile
My philosophy in life is to be international. If they were to teleport this bar from here to Berlin, it would be just as popular. The goal is that anyone, be they from Paris, London, or Vienna, is just as happy here.
Bu müziği dinleyince güzel yemeğini yiyip içkisini yudumlamalı.
Onur Baştürk is nightlife columnist of Hürriyet, Turkey's largest newspaper. He points out that this bar and its crowd are not representative of Istanbul. Europeans say, wow, it's so great here because the women are dressed liberally. Europeans are so prejudiced. Obviously there are women who dress how they want, whatever. But here people can feel comfortable. The problem is that this isn't the standard. If they go around the corner to another restaurant, women there might not be able to behave so freely. That's what I would call the standard. Attila Dogudan has high standards. His hotels are among the best in the world. Now he wants the same standards for his native city of Istanbul.